Pocket FM.
To unlock all the episodes, click the link in bio.
Lynn's not home yet, she replied. She's not answering her phone either. I'm sure she's fine, he said, trying to soothe her nerves. His words were barely out when his phone rang. He looked at the screen and saw that it was Lynn. He frowned. She never called him, and certainly not at such a late hour. Hello? He said. Frasier, can you come to Fisherman's Bar? I'm trapped, she said. But the line went dead before he could reply. Hello? Hello? He called, but he was talking to no one. He hung up the phone, realizing that Natalia was right to worry. Lynn must have met with some trouble. Who was that? Asked Natalia. Frasier thought for a moment and decided not to tell her, deciding that it would be best not to worry her more than he needed to. Jordan Whitehead, he said. I bumped into him this afternoon, and he said we'd try and meet up this evening. I'll just go and see him quickly. But don't worry, he added when he saw the look of disapproval on her face. I won't be gone long. With that, he put on his coat and walked back out of the house. Oh, I thought I told you that man and his friends are nothing but trouble, she shouted. But he wasn't listening. If you ignore me, don't ever come back. Frasier got into the car, wondering which was the lesser of the two evils Natalia had presented him with. If he left, she would be angry. But if he stayed at home and didn't help her sister, he would be in even more trouble. He pulled out of the driveway just as Sheila was driving up. She wound down her window and asked suspiciously, Where are you going so late? Does Natalia know where you're going? No, he replied. But knowing Sheila's ability to stir, he decided to tell her the truth. As she promised to keep a secret, he drove off. Lynn had made the call to Frasier from the bathroom at Fisherman's Bar. She tried to stay hidden in one of the stalls. Despite Lynn's protests, she visited the bar because several of her classmates had persuaded her to party with them, despite her being vocal about wanting to go home. Once she had arrived at the bar, a few boys surrounded her and refused to let her go. Standing behind them had been Sharon McKenzie, Krina's younger sister, and she was out for revenge for Krina's dismissal at the restaurant the previous week. Sharon and Lynn had initially been friends, but because of an incident at their school's beauty pageant last year, they had fallen out. Sharon had caused quite a lot of trouble for her over the week, but none of it had caused Lynn any harm until she arrived at the bar that evening. In desperation, she had managed to struggle free of the boys and run to the bathroom, where she locked herself in a stall and called Frasier. However, before Frasier could get to her, Sharon's henchman caught her. So, the school beauty has returned. I hope you're going to have a drink with us, Sharon teased. Sharon laughed as she spoke and signaled for someone to push Lynn onto the couch beside her. She picked up another bottle of wine and said, Lynn, do you know how much this bottle of wine costs here? The people around them laughed, and one of them said, She's just a poor girl. I doubt she's even seen such a good bottle of wine before. That's right. Lynn needs to thank you. If it weren't for you, she would never have been able to attend such a luxurious party. Sharon continued acting rudely. Hearing everyone's flattery, Sharon's face lit up. She opened the bottle and said, Don't say that. Lynn is someone who has drunk the best wine before. Although this bottle's not the best, it's still a good wine. You want to try it, Lynn? I'm sorry, but I'm not interested, said Lynn. She tried to get up to leave, but the man who had been holding her down stood in front of her and said, Lynn, do you know how much money Miss McKenzie has spent on this party? Just to rent this place for the night was $30,000. The food and wine you can see on this table cost several $1,000s more. You can leave it if you want to, but won't you be missing out? Sharon smiled proudly as she fiddled with her nails. She said, "This is no big deal. I like having fun, no matter how much it costs. But since you don't want us to have a good time together, Lynn, then the least you can do is pay for the wine. What do you say?" She snapped her fingers and called the waiter over. Looking at Lynn's discontented face, she ordered several bottles of the most expensive wine. On hearing her order the wine, one of the people there said,
"Miss Mackenzie is very generous. This wine must be costing her a lot of money."
"Including the previous order, it must be in the thousands by now. I think that even if Lynn sold herself, she wouldn't be able to afford it," Sharon's accomplice spoke. As the laughter rang out, Sharon gestured at Lynn and said, "I'll take a check or cash." Lynn was being humiliated, and her cheeks turned red in embarrassment. Sharon saw her embarrassment and felt happy. The sight of Lynn's discomfort made her feel more emboldened to act superior in front of her. "What? Don't you have any money? In that case, I want you to drink everything on this table." Sharon startled her with the proposition. The crowd burst into an uproar. They looked at each other, and several of them thought that her actions were a little too excessive. "She's going to make her drink all the wine on the table. That might be enough to kill her," someone murmured. A girl who was good friends with Sharon said, "Sharon, why don't we order some more?" Another person said, "No, don't do that. It might really kill her." Sharon rolled her eyes and said, "Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Just feed it to her. If one of you will make sure that she drinks it, I'll reward you with $1,000. Upon hearing that, many of the students' eyes lit up. For a student, $1,000 was enough for a month of living expenses. "I'll do it," said one. The young man who had previously blocked Lynn's way picked up a bottle of wine, grabbed Lynn's jaw, and started pouring it into her mouth. She shook her head madly, trying her best to resist. She coughed and sputtered violently. Soon, her face, hair, neck, and clothes were all soaked with wine. Further on, she had been forced to drink quite a bit. "Let me go! I have to go!" she shouted at the man pouring the wine. Others just wanted to drink more wine before it was wasted on Lynn. "I don't like Lynn, but I'll drink some of her wine," another student spoke. More people joined in the drinking while Sharon took out her cell phone and pointed it at Lynn. While recording her, she smiled sinisterly and said, "This is what happens when you act against me. A pathetic person like you, without money, is helpless against a rich girl like me. I'll make you suffer tonight." Lynn continued to struggle and resist. "I don't drink. Let me go. Let me go," she cried. Eventually, Frasier arrived on the scene. He was furious when he saw that Lynn was being bullied. He had seen bullies before, but he had rarely seen one who was so excessive. "Stop!" he shouted. His shout immediately attracted the attention of a lot of people. Everyone looked, but only a few people recognized him. "Who are you? Mind your own business. This is a private party," Sharon spoke proudly. "He wants to play the hero by saving a damsel in distress," a short, half-drunk student yelled. "I recognize him. Isn't he Lynn's worthless brother-in-law?" Another voice sounded. "Frasier!" Lynn shouted as she pushed through the crowd and ran toward him. Realizing that she was drunk, Frasier went up to her and supported her. When he saw the state she was in, he got outraged. "Oh, I was wondering who it was," said Sharon. "So, it's you. You sorry excuse for a man. Are you trying to take your sister-in-law away?" Frasier glared at Sharon in disgust but didn't say a word. "Okay then, no problem," said Sharon. She snapped her fingers and said, "You can pay for all the wine we ordered. It all costs well over several $1,000s. You can leave as soon as you've paid the bill. But if you don't have the money and still want to pay me, you must play by my rules." She pointed to the wine on the table and said, "If you want to leave, then drink up all the wine. Otherwise, you're not going anywhere. Security!" With a shout from Sharon, more than 10 of Mackenzie's bodyguards rushed down from upstairs and surrounded Frasier and Lynn. The scene scared everyone else in the place. From the looks of it, Sharon has probably brought all of her family's bodyguards, thought Frasier. Sharon noticed that Frasier seemed dismayed at the sight of the bodyguards. She had expected Lynn to ask him for help, purposely giving her the chance to call him. "So, you piece of trash," Sharon said. "You were good at fighting before, so let's try it again today. You might be able to take on 1 or 2 of these guys on your own, but I don't believe that you can fight more than 10. Also, this is not the Wilsons' property, so don't expect anyone else to come to your rescue." After listening to Sharon, Lynn shuddered and grabbed Frasier's arm. "Frasier, what should we do now? Why don't we call the police?" Lynn spoke in fear. "There's no need," he replied. He prepared himself to fight, but before he could make a move and teach those people a lesson, Henry called. Henry reported that he had finished doing what Frasier had previously asked him to take care of. He told him that Mackenzie's company had already gone bankrupt. Also, due to the large number of homes that were sold by the Philly Group, which had severe structural and quality issues, a lawsuit against the Philly Group was going to be filed the following day. "Ah, that saves me a lot of trouble," Frasier muttered to himself. He called over the bar owner, who had been watching the show. "What's the matter, mister?" the bar owner asked. As he spoke, he winked at Sharon to give her a sense of the incoming trouble. "I want to pay for tonight's expenses," said Frasier. "You? What the hell are you talking about?" shouted Sharon. "You're just a nobody. You'd have to sell a kidney to pay for all this." Ignoring Sharon, he fished out a black card and handed it to the owner. The owner tentatively showed Frasier the bill. Frasier agreed, and the amount was immediately transferred to the bar's account. While Sharon and the others were still stunned, Frasier moved closer to the owner and whispered to him while he looked at Sharon. After hearing what he had to say, the bar owner's expression changed. He glared at Sharon and said coldly, "I want you to pay the rental fee for this place right now. I believe we've agreed on $30,000 for the night. You're not leaving until you pay it." Sharon seemed insulted. "What are you saying? You're in the hospitality business, so you should have heard of the Mackenzie Club's reputation, right? I'm a member of the Mackenzie family. My dad gave me 3 credit cards, and they're worth millions. Do you honestly think that I won't be able to pay?" Sharon pointed at Frasier and said, "He's a nobody. How could he afford to pay you? He's married into a family that isn't even wealthy." She then turned to the bar owner and said, "You need to ask him about the source of the money he gave you." The owner smiled indifferently and said, "Miss Mackenzie, are you joking? As long as he has the money to give me, I don't care how he got it, even if he's stolen it. You, on the other hand, haven't paid your bill. You promised to pay $30,000 for the rental of this place, and I need the payment now." As he said that, he snapped his fingers at a beautiful woman at the front desk. "Go and take the payment from Miss Mackenzie," he asked her. "Yes, sir." The woman smiled and carried the card reader over to Sharon. "Miss Mackenzie, would you—" Sharon stopped her and said, How dare you treat me like this? I'm a member of the McKinsey family, so you don't have to chase me for payment. You can send an invoice to my family's offices. The woman stared at Sharon and felt a little afraid of her. She lowered her head, hoping that Sharon would just pay up. A staff member ran over and shouted, "Boss, there's big trouble."
"What are you panicking about?" asked the owner. "What trouble are you talking about?"
The man took out his cell phone and handed it to the boss. "Something has happened to the McKinsey family," the man said. "It looks like they've gone bankrupt."
"Oh, crap," the owner muttered.
If he still had doubts about Frasier and the news he had revealed earlier, those doubts had just evaporated. He strode over, took the card machine off his employee and handed it to Sharon.
"Miss McKinsey, please settle the bill now," the owner demanded.
Sharon looked indignant and said, "You can't."
"Cut the crap and pay the bill. Your family is broke, yet you still dare to come here to eat and drink? Are you trying to steal from me? Pay the damn bill."
The owner was losing his cool. Sharon was shocked by the sudden change in the demeanor of the owner. She took out a card and swiped it. The machine beeped and displayed a message. Payment declined. What? She panicked and hastily took out another credit card. However, after swiping it, the notification sound was exactly the same. Payment declined. She nervously pulled out her last card and swiped it. The same message appeared, completely destroying her last sliver of hope. "It's over. I'm so humiliated," she thought. Seeing Sharon in such a state, the other people there began to stir, as if afraid that the bill would be apportioned to them. I've suddenly remembered that I still have something to do tonight, so I'll be leaving now," a student murmured, evidently lying. "I've drunk far too much this evening, so it's time I went home," another student lied. "My friend has booked a table at my favorite restaurant and is waiting for me. I can't get out of it. Bye." One by one, all of Sharon's apparent friends wanted to walk out on her.
"If this bill isn't settled, no one will be able to leave," the owner shouted.
Then a group of security guards rushed into the bar and surrounded Sharon and her friends. As for the McKinsey family's bodyguards, after seeing the news of the family's bankruptcy, they had already slipped away and left. If they weren't going to get paid, they wouldn't continue working. Sharon was utterly stunned. At that moment, she felt like she had lost her entire world. She burst into tears and gave her mother a call. However, when her father heard Sharon was in a bar and had spent $30,000 in one night, he was enraged and scolded her for her foolishness. After hanging up, Sharon cried even harder. However, the bar owner was clearly not sympathetic, so he ignored her distress. "You're an idiot," he said.
"You hired my bar without money? Did you think I was stupid? Well, you can stay here and work in the bar for 6 months to pay off what you owe me."
Working in a bar for 6 months, she thought. I can't bear the thought of that. After doing it for 6 months, I'll feel like a piece of trash. She didn't dare think any further. Her eyes lit up after she glanced at Frasier. She went over to him and started begging. "Please, can you pay the $30,000 as well?" Frasier felt like laughing at the nerve of the woman. However, he calmly said, "I'm sorry, Miss McKinsey, but I'm just a nobody, and I don't have that much money." He turned to the bar owner and asked, "I don't have any obligation to help her pay her bill, do I?" "Of course not," the owner replied. He couldn't wait for Frasier to leave. The money he would make Sharon earn from working there for 6 months would be more than $30,000. "So, can I take my sister-in-law now?" The owner made a gesture of dismissal and said, "Of course, please go ahead." He then added, "I apologize for what happened today. From now on, you'll receive a 50% discount when you come here. You'll always be very welcome here." "Thank you for your generosity." Even as Frasier said that, he thought that even with the 50% discount, the owner would still be able to make a profit from him. As expected of a businessman, he had his sales ploy in order as always. On the way home, Lynn stared at Frasier several times and hesitated to speak. In the end, she didn't say anything. "The money must have come from the proceeds of his huge property sale," she thought. "I need to find a job in the future and try my best to pay the money back. I don't want to owe him that favor." Back home, Natalia was still waiting in the living room when they arrived. When she discovered that Lynn reeked of alcohol, she immediately blamed Frasier. "Are you crazy? How could you let my sister get into that state? Stick to going drinking with your cronies in the future," she fired her husband. Frasier was speechless at her unfair accusation. Lynn grinned and looked apologetically at him. He pointed at her, hoping she would say a few words to clear his name, but she kept mum and headed straight to her room. That night, Frasier didn't even feel that it was safe to go back to his room to sleep. The next day, Frasier was so tired that he found it hard to stay awake over breakfast. Natalia gave him some fried eggs and toast and said, "Eat up and then go back to sleep. You don't have to work anyway. By the way, tomorrow night my parents are going to hold a family dinner to meet my new sister-in-law. They've already decided on the location. Make sure that you're there." "Okay, I will," he replied. The next day in the afternoon, Frasier revisited the car dealer. The salesperson remembered him and was eager to help. Frasier asked him to prepare a top-of-the-line car and asked for it to be delivered to the entrance of the restaurant where the family was eating that evening. He paid $350,000, and under the envious gazes of the sales team, he swaggered out of the showroom. "If they want to bully my wife, I'll make them sorry," he thought. At 5 o'clock, Frasier, Natalia, and Lynn walked into a private room on the restaurant's second floor. As soon as they entered, they saw a pretty girl with her head down, sitting at the head of the table and playing on her phone. Natalia was annoyed to see her family smiling apologetically at her. Typically, on such grand occasions, the person sitting in the main seat would be hostess. Now, not only had he given up the top position, but he had given it up to an outsider he had never met before. Natalia found it challenging to suppress her disapproval. "So, I take it you're my brother's girlfriend, Pearl. Didn't your parents teach you any manners? Do you think it's okay to sit at the head of the table?" She opened up unhesitatingly. Pearl stopped playing with her phone and looked up at Natalia with some surprise. She had a mean expression, which gave Natalia the impression that her future sister-in-law wasn't someone who would be easy to deal with. Pearl looked at Hostess and Dorothy, whose expressions had changed slightly. Then she snorted and said, "You must be Natalia, right? I don't think anyone else minds me sitting here, so there's no need for you to be concerned about it." Pearl went on to put on an act and asked, "Hostess, Dorothy, do you have any objections?" Their faces were full of smiles, and Hostess said, "No, it's fine. You can sit wherever you want, even when you're at home. Just as long as you're happy." "See? Hostess and Dorothy aren't bothered," she said. "So just chill out, sister." James also spoke up to protect his fiancée. "Natalia, Pearl will be your sister-in-law soon, so don't talk to her like that." Natalia felt a wave of injustice. Previously, the most important person had been her father. However, now that Pearl was there, he had given up his status in the family. Seeing that his wife was about to say something to her father, Frasier pulled her aside and whispered, "It's only a meal. Let's just get through this as peacefully as possible." Both Natalia and Lynn felt uneasy about their future sister-in-law. The more they looked at her, the more concerned they became about the Laplace family. They were already resentful toward her because they had been told they would have to leave the family home because of her. Frasier wanted to sit next to his wife, but before he could sit down, James kicked away the chair and, using his eyes, signaled toward another chair near the door. "Know your place, loser," he said. Natalia frowned when she heard that. Recently, her image of Frasier had changed a lot, so she wanted to speak up for him. However, thinking about how her husband had made her swallow the words she had been about to say to Pearl, she decided not to speak. As for Lynn, she always did as she was told in front of her parents and James. Frasier seemed to be used to it. He smiled and didn't care at all. He casually sat in the chair next to the door. After a while, the waiter came through, and he sat up. When the waiter had finally finished serving the dishes, James stood up, holding his glass, and introduced Pearl to everyone with a smile. Frasier noticed that while she was being introduced, she had a haughty look, and it was hard for him to tell what her feelings were toward James. He could not see what was so good about her, and why she had been able to turn the Laplace family upside down. James said, "I want to propose a toast to my darling Pearl, who is soon to be the newest member of this happy family. To Pearl." Pearl clinked her glass against those around her. However, she purposefully avoided Frasier's glass and smiled contemptuously at him. "You must be the Laplace's son-in-law, right?" she asked. "Yes, my name's Frasier." "I'm sorry," she said, "but being related to you is too embarrassing, so I don't want to drink with you." After saying that, she looked away and gulped down the wine in her glass. The atmosphere became awkward, and Frasier, whose glass was hanging in the air, took a sip of his drink and seemed not to care. In the 3 years he had been with the Laplace family, he hadn't tried to retain any pride. Even though he could endure the humiliation, it didn't mean that others could as well. His wife was one such example. Although Natalia had always looked down on Frasier, he was still her husband, and there was only so much she could take. She slammed her glass on the table, and, ignoring Dorothy's warning glance, she asked coldly, "Pearl, what exactly do you mean?"
Hey guys, Frasier here. Listen to the full episode of Unraveling the Son-in-Law exclusively on Pocket FM app. Click the link in description to install the app now.
Pocket FM. To unlock all the episodes, click the link in bio.